So I'm gonna be honest with you right up front. As we begin wrapping up season 1, out of every artist we've covered so far, David Bowie is the one that I know least about going in. Which, if you've ever dipped a toe into Bowie's world, you know that that's a wild place to start. But that actually made this episode the most fun to make. Bowie wasn't just a musician, he was a shapeshifter. Every time I thought I had him figured out, he'd reinvent himself again. Ziggy Stardust, The Thin White Duke, Berlin. It was like researching 5 different artists at once. And the deeper I went, the clearer it became that Bowie didn't just make great songs, he redesigned the very framework of pop and rock music in the 70s and the 80s. He treated identity like a canvas, sound like a medium to be shaped and distorted, and performance like living theater. Artists today still borrow from the colors he splashed everywhere. So today we're taking this journey together. From who is David Bowie to the many ways he left a permanent fingerprint on music and pop culture. Welcome to episode 9 of For Beginners, where we break down the life, the music, and the evolution of David Bowie. For Beginners. David Bowie, born David Robert Jones in 1947 in Brixton, England, was a British singer, songwriter, actor, and all-around creative force. He changed his name to David Bowie in 1965 to avoid being confused with Davy Jones from the Monkees. Growing up in post-war London, he was surrounded by early rock and roll, jazz records, and an experimental art scene bubbling up around the city. His older half-brother Terry exposed him to everything, from avant-garde music to beat poetry, shaping Bowie's lifelong curiosity. Musically, Bowie started early. He picked up saxophone at 13, joined local bands in his teens, and spent the 60s bouncing around between groups, producers, and ideas. He recorded singles, cut demos, explored different styles, but nothing fully clicked yet. His first real step forward came when he caught the attention of producer Tony Visconti, who would become one of his closest collaborators for decades. With help from manager Kenneth Pitt and producer Gus Dudgeon, Bowie began shaping his voice, not just as a singer, but as an artist with a vision. By the time Space Odyssey hit in 1969, Bowie had earned his first brush with fame. But he wasn't done evolving, not even close. The best way to understand David Bowie is to think of his career like a series of chapters, each one opening a door to a completely new world. Our first stop is early Bowie, from the late 60s into the early 70s. Before the dramatic personas, Bowie began as a curious, soft-spoken songwriter, blending folk and art pop. This is where the aforementioned Space Oddity arrives, the haunting centerpiece of the Space Oddity album, introducing Major Tom and hinting at Bowie's otherworldly imagination. Then in 1972, everything bursts into color with the arrival of Ziggy Stardust. Ziggy is the cosmic rock star at the heart of the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust and Spiders from Mars. Red hair, glitter, sci-fi style, and glam rock anthems like Starman and Moonage Daydream. It's Bowie's first fully formed world, and it changes everything. But Bowie never stays in one place for long. By the mid-70s, he pivots into the soul and funk era, captured on his Young Americans album. Warm grooves, R&B influence, and new age style of songs like Fame. Then the tone shifts again. In the late 1970s, Bowie moves to Berlin and enters one of his most experimental chapters, the Berlin Trilogy, formed by Low, Heroes, and Lodger. These albums blend electronic music, ambient textures, and art rock, leading to tracks like Heroes, both new and transcendent. And just when the world adjusts again, Bowie transforms once more. In 1983, he steps into the Let's Dance era with the Let's Dance album. It was polished, it was stylish, and it was explosively successful. Let's Dance and Modern Love turn him into a global pop icon. His final chapter, including his 2016 album Blackstar, is reflective, inventive, and deeply artistic. Even near the end, Bowie is still evolving, still exploring new paths. Each era feels like its own universe, and together they form a mosaic of an artist who never stopped reinventing himself. Bowie live and on stage was an experience, part concert, part theater, part transformation, happening right in front of you. The first performance worth watching is Bowie's 1972 Starman on Top of the Pops. Ziggy Stardust truly arrives here. Bright red hair, glitter, and that iconic arm around Mick Ronson. It was electric and completely unlike anything on TV at the time. Then jump to 1983 and watch a different Bowie performing Let's Dance on the Serious Moonlight Tour. Slick suit, Big stage, big sound. This is Bowie as a global pop icon. Confident and stylish with a band that fills the entire arena. Finally, in 1997, you get a stripped-back Bowie performing Heroes on Later with Jules Holland. No heavy makeup, no persona, just conviction. It shows how powerful he could be without theatrics, simply standing in the music. 3 performances, 3 worlds, all unmistakably David Bowie. David Bowie's legacy isn't defined by one sound or one moment or one era. It's defined by the freedom he gave people to reinvent themselves. Much like Prince, he showed that you could change your look, your sound, your identity, and still be authentic. That being different wasn't something to hide, it was something to celebrate. His influence stretches far beyond music. Designers borrowed his style, filmmakers borrowed his universes, and entire genres formed from ideas he explored decades earlier. For millions, Bowie wasn't just a musician, he was someone who made them feel like your identity was something that you could transform. Even today, artists still chase the fearlessness that Bowie carried, and listeners return to his music to rediscover something new. His legacy isn't just the songs, it's the doors that he opened. And that, my friends, is David Bowie, for beginners. Bowie's journey wasn't just about the music, it was about the identity, the imagination, and the courage to reshape yourself whenever the art called for it. If this episode opened a door for you, go explore the eras, albums, and performances that we talked about. There's an entire universe waiting for you. And speaking of eras, our next and final episode of season 1 is still a mystery. I've got something special planned, but I'm still keeping it under wraps until the moment is right. So stay tuned. Thanks for coming along on this journey with me. We'll see you next time.